Hey everyone, Alyssa here from Becoming Memories. Thanks so much for joining me. Today I have a process video for you and I'm using some inspiration from the CSI blog, Color Stories and Inspiration. And it has this color palette here at the bottom with that adorable image of that girl there and some other prompts. And this photo that I'm using is from a renovation that we did a couple of years ago where I sanded it and repainted a ton of trim, and it was quite the labor of love. It took for freaking ever. Hopefully I'm allowed to say that. And so I took this photo intending to scrapbook it, and 3 years later here we are. So that's kind of how it goes. This background paper is from Maggie Holmes, one of the really first collections. It's been in my stash for quite a while, and I absolutely love this wood grain. Sorry about the fly buzzing back and forth, but I've been holding on to it forever, and I think this is actually the second sheet that I bought, which means that it's my last piece, which is very sad, but it is time to use it. So first I'm going to try something here that I've never tried before, and quite honestly this doesn't quite turn out the way that I intended it to, but that is the story of this layout, as you will see. So I'm trying just putting a little bit of molding paste on the background. I wanted to kind of do a little bit of mixed media, but I wasn't sure I wanted to go completely white with the gesso, and I was hoping for maybe a little texture, but it doesn't quite work out the way that I'm hoping. It kind of, it does fade some of it out and gives sort of a white out or a cloudy look to parts of it, but it was really just kind of a mess and didn't do a whole lot. So can't say that I really recommend that approach, but you know, that's how I've learned from mixed media. That's how I've discovered some of the new things that I have, or learned some new techniques, is totally by trial and error. And so this one was not bad enough to toss, so I'm just going to keep layering up on top of it. So now I'm reaching for my golden mixed media sample size jars there, and I'm pulling out some light molding paste, and I'm going to put it through this stencil that you see up above there from the Crafter's Workshop. And I haven't used this stencil in quite a while, but first I decide to grab a sheet of paper. I had intended to do a design here with a strip of paper across the middle and my photo above, the strip and most of my embellishments below, and as you'll see, that's not quite what ends up happening, but there you go. So now I'm just applying the molding paste, and I've just had my evening shower right before taping this, which is why my hair is wet, so bear with me on that. Now this blue, you see me looking here, this is kind of a mystery. Like, I quite honestly have no idea where this blue is coming from. Apparently there was some blue left on my stencil from whatever I previously did, and so again, with this layout not quite going the way I intended it to, I never really meant to have that blue in the background, but as you'll see here in a little bit, I find a way to incorporate it and just kind of go with it. So just giving it a quick dry here with my heat tool. And there's my wet hair again. There are reasons I don't do live scrapbooking. In fact, I think as I was recording this, my husband was watching some obnoxious movie loudly in the background. So here we go. So now I'm kind of like debating where to go from here. I decide to pull out this Distressed Oxide in Abandoned Coral, which I promptly drop on my desk and have to clean up with a baby wipe. So, you know, don't do that. So I'm just putting a little bit on this packaging, spritzing it with water, and then I'm going to just apply it to the background, kind of with the packaging technique. And I really didn't gesso this paper, and so I'm trying not to overload it with mixed media, but I wanted to kind of bring in a paint effect because the whole layout is about how I sanded and painted 1.5 million pieces of trim. And so I decide at one point here in just a second, I take my brush and I'm trying to like smush out some of the paint, and I decide that was a bad idea. So I quit. Guys, I really thought about deleting this video and just tossing the whole thing about 5,000 times during the recording of this, but in the end it turned out well, so I'm glad I didn't. So now I'm going to bring back my photo and I'm going to work on just matting it up. I wanted to bring all of the colors from that color palette into my photo mat and with some layers so that they were all represented there, and that I knew that way I knew that they would all make it into the layout because they were all there behind the photo. And really the photo, other than that little blue corner of trash can in the corner of my photo, is a very neutral photo. So I decided it was a good time to have fun with some color. And that's why I brought all of the colors into my matting. This yellow paper is from Jelly Bean Soup, one of their older collections. Can't remember which one offhand. But these rest of these papers are from the R Memory Keepers Wildflower collection, except for that one actually. That one right there is a Maggie Holmes paper from the Carousel collection. And I loved this R Memory Keepers collection, and I've used it to death. I've made an entire wedding album for my sister-in-law out of it. And I really, literally only have a few sheets and some scraps left. But these papers were just so perfect with that inspiration color palette that I couldn't resist. I couldn't use anything else. I had to use these. So here I am now just starting to fiddle around with some matting. And at this point, I'm still hating everything about this. And so I decide here in a second to resort to the one thing I always resort to, which is fussy cutting. So if you've seen me do very many layouts or you have watched any of the kits that I've made, I always include a fussy cutting piece because that is 100% my go-to. So here's this piece that I've chosen, and I'm going to skip over most of my fussy cutting here, but this is a navy in white, navy pattern on white, and just choosing a couple elements here to fussy cut. What I like to do is kind of cut them out of the paper with broad strokes and then go back and do the detail cutting. And right now that fly that's buzzing back and forth is super annoying me, and I'm trying not to smack it and smash it on my layout on TV. I mean on YouTube. So here I am with the fussy cutting all done by the magic of television, and starting to work on how to arrange these pieces. And this is a little scrap that I had sitting on my desk. It's a Polaroid frame from a Dear Lizzie collection. And those stickers, I really honestly don't know who made them. I found them in a bin at Goodwill outlet, and along with another random pile of scrapping goodness that had no packaging. So I honestly don't know who made them. If you do, I'd love to hear it in the comments. They are clear stickers with some foiling. And so I knew that I wanted to use that one right there because it fit my color scheme and kind of brought that blue in. I actually pulled that sticker sheet for this video before my mishap with the blue happened, and once it happened I was like, let's just incorporate the blue and make it part of the thing like I planned it. So I'm cutting out some butterflies. Those are from that R Memory Keepers collection again. And I'm going to fussy cut 3 or 4 of them here. And then by the magic of television, we are done fussy cutting. So now I'm bringing in some yellow washi. And honestly at this point, like I am grasping at straws. I'm starting to feel like it's coming together, but it is not anything like what I had in my head or what I planned. And so, but you know, sometimes those layouts actually surprise us and they turn out the best. So now I'm this is the point where I kind of started to feel like it was turning a corner a little bit, and I was going to end up with something that I liked at the end of the day. I put that little white puffy sticker there on the photo. Must have done that when I was fast forwarding the fussy cutting. That is from Elle's Studio and or Ellie's Studio. You can see the full sheet up there at the top of my screen. Can't remember which collection that is from, but I do love that puffy sticker sheet. So now I'm looking for some enamel dots. And the problem I'm running into here is that I do not have anything in that sort of golden buttery yellow, which is kind of what I wanted because I didn't have a ton of that yellow on the layout. At this point, it's looking kind of dominated by the pink and even the blue. And so I'm looking for some yellow enamel dots, and I never do find any. I end up going with some pink and some gray, I believe, and maybe some blue. But that's what I'm doing here. I pull out those pearls, thinking that maybe I will use them. And these little itty bitty enamel dots, I love these things. I got them at a scrapbook store in Branson, and I love them. They're teeny tiny, but they are gorgeous. These enamel dots here, the blue that I'm about to use, those are from my mind's eye. And here's where I realized that I haven't adhered most of this down, and so I figure I better go ahead and get it glued down before I do enamel dots, because those are kind of finishing touches. And generally speaking, it's better to do the gluing down before the final touches, right? Leave it to me to do things out of order. I am not very traditional in that sense, but you know, you got to do what works, right? So I'm kind of just layering everything back up and applying the adhesive this time. Trying to remember where I had everything. Usually I try to adhere more as I go, but this layout I was just hating for so long that I refused to commit and stick anything down because I just didn't like anything. So this is a fine tip, a glue bottle. I bought it on Amazon. Learned about it from Missy Whidden, one of my scrapping heroes, and so that has the Scotch quick dry adhesive in it, basically the same one that Missy uses. I figured if the fine line bottle and that glue was good enough for Missy Whidden, it was good enough for me, so that is what I'm using. I've been a huge fan of Zip Dry for years, but the last couple of bottles that I've had have dried up so quickly they've been a big disappointment, and so I decided it was time to branch out and try something different, so that is what I'm using. So now I'm just going through and tucking in those fussy cut pieces back in behind my photo. Here goes the glue on that Polaroid frame. I think I started to tell you that Polaroid frame is from a very, very old My Mind's Eye collection. It's a collection probably from it's probably from 2012, 2011, something like that. It's been in my stash for quite a while, and I recently went through my stash and took lots of little bits and pieces that had just been kind of hanging out in random places and put them all in a container on my desk, and I find that I'm actually using them that way, so I really love that. And I just love to see how they're being used. So here I am sneaking in one more fussy cut butterfly. And this one doesn't take me very long to cut out, so I won't totally cut this out. But this is another butterfly from that R Memory Keepers paper. And you know, when I buy a collection, the first thing I look for is if there are good fussy cutting papers, and if there aren't, I don't buy it. And that may sound very strange to you, but fussy cutting is like a very relaxing thing for me, and it's actually kind of one of my, I don't know if I'll say trademarks, but something that you see on virtually every single layout that I do. And so it feels very strange to me to have a layout where there isn't some kind of fussy cutting. And so I really don't buy paper if there isn't some fussy cutting. So here I am. This is an old Dear Lizzie, another Polaroid frame. This one is from an old Dear Lizzie collection, Neapolitan, I believe. And I just inked the edges of that with that abandoned coral, the same color that's there on the background, because I wanted to make it stand out a little bit. It was kind of blending in a little too much to my background. And just chopped the top of it off so that it would fit under where I wanted it to fit under. There we go. Oh, see, here I am still playing. I'm a fidgeter, guys. I fidget with my layouts way longer than I probably should. And so I'm stalled again. I'm telling you guys, you know, sometimes layouts are like pulling teeth. Have you ever felt that way? Like, please tell me in the comments if you sometimes feel this way. It's like some layouts come so easily and others just take forever. So I'm testing out this new gold pen I got. I got it Tuesday morning. It's from American Crafts and it's a gold gel pen. And I just wrote a little scribble there on the white cardstock and held it up so that I could see if that tone was what I was looking for this layout. And I decided that it was fine. So I am now journaling there underneath the photo. And what was so interesting about this was that molding paste that I used at the very beginning of my layout that I was not at all happy with ended up actually providing the perfect spot for my journaling. And I was able to journal onto white there, and that gold pen just really showed up nicely, and it was kind of like a happy little something good out of that accident. So I'm using these thickers. These are ancient thickers. They're from the Rockabye. They're the Rockabye font from American Crafts in white foam. Probably my favorite thickers font of all time. And I recently found them again at Tuesday morning, and I was ecstatic because I have used up several packages of these. They line up so nicely, and they're such a perfect size for titles, especially longer titles. And so I'm moving that little Ellie Studio puffy sticker over to be part of my title, and it says the best part is being done. And that is absolutely how I felt about that trim, because that took all summer. I was 20 weeks pregnant, and we were renovating this house in the summer. There was no air conditioning in the house yet because we were renovating, and my husband hadn't gotten around to fixing the air conditioner yet. And so it was a very, very long, hot project, and I absolutely hated the sight of trim by the time I was finished. But it saved us hundreds of dollars because this was solid hardwood, like high quality trim, and I really wanted it to be white. So instead of going and buying trim, I painted and painted and painted. So I'm now just putting some foam squares underneath some of those butterfly wings to add a little more dimension. And this layout is nearly complete. I decided to take my foam distress ink tool, I guess is what it's called, and put that abandoned coral around the edges of the paper. And I really like actually how this kind of like brought the mixed media full circle, and it kind of sort of added a finishing touch to it. So I'm going to add a couple enamel dots. And at this point, I'm finally liking this project. Can you believe it? Like, I got all the way to the end and finally decided this was a good one, and I was going to keep it. Right up until about the point I did the journaling, tossing the whole thing in the bin was still an option, but always keep going, right? Always keep going, because you really never know how it's going to turn out. And at the end of the day, I really do like how this layout turned out. I'm adding I decided to add a little bit more washi tape because I still wanted to incorporate just a little bit more of the yellow. Excuse my head there. I was trying to make sure it was straight. This is a fine little washi tape in a solid color yellow I got from eBay, I believe. It came from China on the slow boat with some enamel dots that I bought. Kind of probably the same sellers as AliExpress. Just adding a few tiny little finishing touches there with that abandoned coral ink to the popped up corners. And there we have it, the finished layout. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you enjoyed this layout. Thank you for bearing with me, and I hope you'll come back again soon. Make sure you like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I will see you later.